We are back on midday with your weekly installment of News to You. Remembering when Western New York got its first Walmart, one of the most heinous crimes in the history of Canada, and the loss of an iconic landmark for Buffalo's African-American community. Dave McKinley has our weekly walk back through time when all of those stories and more were news to you.
10 years ago this week marked the first time a New York City assemblyman proposed the state ban tackling in youth football. It didn't go over big up here among those who thought that's a decision best left to parents.
And not some downstate assemblyman who thinks he knows what's best for our youth.
Speaking of changing the game, that same week the makers of Monopoly announced that after voting by fans from 100 countries, the cat would be introduced as a new token for the venerable board game, replacing what? This week's News to You pop quiz. What token was taken off the board after more than 75 years in favor of the cat 1 decade ago? Remember, this was when Danica Patrick became the first woman to win the pole for the Daytona 500, and when we did our first ever story on a student being suspended from school over a tweet this week in 2013. 20 years ago this week, if you can remember shopping at Be Quick, you also might recall something new in the skies.
It looks like a normal 737.
Yes.
Except for those two little suitcase-sized antennae at the top of the plane. See those little bumps up there?
Yes.
Those are phased array antennas connecting every seat on this airplane with the internet.
And back down on the ground, there was some new technology to keep the youngins web surfing on the up and up. And before you can say, well, couldn't they just? No, they could not, because our phones weren't smart yet. Sorry, kids, this was the best we had this week in 2003. Hard to believe it's been 30 years since the first Walmart store opened in Western New York. The initial one was on Military Road in the town of Niagara. But while that may have been cause for celebration for some, not far across the border.
Police stood in front of a mobbed news conference claiming they've broken the murder cases of 15-year-old Kristen French and 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey.
And soon to be charged would be Paul Bernardo and his wife Kristen Homolka, and soon to be learned would be the gruesome details of the rape, tortures, and murders of the two girls, along with another, Homolka's own sister, who suffered a similar fate inside a St. Catherine's House of Horrors back in Buffalo.
Look at
But it was hard to, as flames destroyed the iconic Little Harlem Hotel, a mainstay for Buffalo's African-American community for more than 60 years, attracting the top stars of the black entertainment world who stayed there and played there.
I just hope they can put something back that they can replace it, you know.
Even if we could just save, the downstairs.
But they could not. And today, nothing of it remains in this empty lot on Michigan Avenue, save for a plaque to note this part of the Queen City's history, lost forever in the days when it was all news to you.
And that was Dave McKinley. And now here's the answer to this week's News to You pop quiz. 10 years ago this week, after voters chose the cat as the new token for Monopoly, another piece had to make way for it. And it was the iron that was scratched in favor of the cat, ending the iron's more than 75-year run on the Monopoly board. So Patrick, what is your little token of choice when you play Monopoly?
When I'm the thimble, I cannot be beat.
Really? Yeah. I would have thought you would have gone top hat.
No.
Coming from a family of haberdashers.
Well, what's the property I go for are the greens, the Pennsylvania, the Pacific Avenue, and the, what's the other one? North Carolina.
Not Park Place, huh?
No, nobody lands on Boardwalk and Park Place. Nobody.
Never heard.
Nobody. It's like the most...
Bad investment.
Bad, total.